Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast, and today we've got a ton of stuff to go over, including the Orioles game that happened today, where the Orioles got a 2-1 victory over the Washington Nationals. Obviously, they still lost the series to them, but they did get a win today over the Nationals. It was a 2-1 victory. Cedric Mullins hit the go-ahead, had the go-ahead single to bring Ryan O'Hearn home in the fifth inning. The pitching was great. Cade Povich with arguably the best start of his entire young career. So the pitching was phenomenal. The pitching was really the reason why we won today. And it's one of those scenarios where obviously the pitching's been struggling a lot, but they went out there and did their thing today. So that is very, very good for the Orioles. But also the main, biggest news of the day, and probably the news that a lot of y'all, clicked on this video or, clicked on this episode of the podcast to really listen about, and that is Malaki Starks becoming a Raven. He is officially a Baltimore Raven, the dream pick that I had, the player that I wanted most in this first round. He is officially a Raven. We're going to be talking about the way that he fits, talking about, the pros to Malaki, and we're just recapping the draft as well. So we've got a lot to talk about, so let's just get right into it. Starting off with the NFL draft that just ended about 30 minutes ago. It was a crazy draft. Obviously, there was 100% no mock draft that could have even predicted what happened tonight. There was some crazy trades, some crazy reaches on players, some players who we didn't think that were gonna go in the first round ended up going, and also a lot of players who we thought were gonna go in the first round also fell to the second round. But I also did say this. I said there's going to be a ton of great players who should go in the first round who are going to fall into the second round, because this draft, especially at the top half, first, second, third round, there is a ton of great talent scattered across the draft board and scattered across the big board. And there was going to be some great players that fell. And that's just the reality. That's just the reality of it, and what ended up happening today. There's still a ton of great players still available in this draft for day two, but talking about day one, it was a crazy draft. Obviously, we go down here. Malaki Starks is now officially a Raven. Pick 27, the Ravens stood still at pick 27, and it got a little scary because the Falcons traded up to 26. And obviously they lost Justin Simmons this offseason, so I thought that maybe they were going to try and pair him with Jesse Bates. I'm sure they probably had that thought in their mind, but they ended up going with James Pierce Jr., who is another player that I would have liked to see the Ravens maybe get. But Malaki Starks is Raven. Could not be happier with this selection. I don't know if you have seen the movie Draft Day, the scene where it said, the Browns general manager had the little note that said Vontae Mack all the way. That's kind of how I was feeling with Malaki Starks, and now he is officially a Raven, and I could not be excited, could not be more excited, could not be happier with this pick. But kind of running down some other crazy things that happened today across the first round, because obviously we did do 4 different mock drafts leading up to today, because we were obviously invested in the draft, invested in what was going on, not just about the Ravens, but across the entire league. Obviously Cam Ward went number 1. But the first big move of the night, not necessarily a surprise of where he was picked, but the first big move of the night was the Jaguars trading up from number 5 with the Cleveland Browns, going from number 5 to number 2, and the Jaguars taking Heisman winner Travis Hunter. The Giants then go Abdul Carter at 3, the Patriots go Will Campbell at 4, and then the Browns get Mason Graham at 5. So these first 5 selections obviously is what I actually had in my mock. This is what I had in most of my mocks as well. It just kind of felt like this was the direction that the draft was going to go. Obviously, the Travis Hunter and the Jaguars and Browns trade, I didn't have that predicted because I didn't do any trades in my mock. But in terms of the position that the players were picked at, the top 5 was correct for me, so I'm a little bit happy about that. But it also continued with Ashton Genty going number 6, and then Armand Membu going number 7. So when it comes to my mock draft that I had, my final one that I did this past Monday, I did go 7 for 7 on my first 7 picks. So I mean that's kind of cool, but at the same time, it wasn't like super impressive because, I mean, obviously there was a lot of mock drafts that also predicted the same type of thing, just because people thought that that's the direction that and the vibe that the draft was going to go. I will say that Ashton Genty was getting a bunch of hype to go to the Jaguars at number 5, or someone like the Bears trading up to go get him. So, I thought that I might have had to like make a new mock draft like tomorrow or yesterday to try and upload to see, how close I could get, because it was, obviously the day before the draft. But the first big shock of the night in terms of like a selection, in my opinion, it was definitely Territora McMillan. Obviously, he went number 8 to the Panthers. I thought that this like had it had a little bit of a possibility, but it was a little surprising seeing it happen. To Torrey McMillan, obviously great receiver for Arizona, but there was some comments about how much he watches film and stuff, and he kind of dropped on a lot of people's boards because of that. But he goes here number 8. Did the Panthers reach with this pick? I wouldn't really say so. I think there's a lot of players in this first round and even the second round who are really close in talent. So it's kind of hard to like reach on some players. There are teams today that did reach on the position that they drafted players, but I don't mind the Torrey McMillan pick. I don't really mind it. The Torrey McMillan pick. I don't mind it. The Saints go and get Kelvin Banks at number 9. I like that pick. Bolstering up the O-line. This was the first real chance of the night for Shedeur to go off the board, and he didn't go off the board. Saints ended up sticking here and getting offensive line. And then this was still, in my opinion, one of the biggest shocks of the night. The Bears at pick 10. We knew that it was possible that Tyler Warren was in play, but the Bears, instead of taking Tyler Warren, they instead went with Colston Loveland, the other tight end from Michigan. So Colston Loveland was the tight end 1 in this draft. That was surprising. That's something that I don't think a lot of people were expecting to see. Colston Loveland going to the Bears. But at the same time, it's one of those scenarios where, maybe Ben Johnson, the head coach of the Bears, maybe he wanted maybe he liked the way that Colston Loveland played. Obviously, Loveland is more of a receiver guy, and Tyler Warren's more of that physical, Gronk, one-on-one, crazy good catching guy. So, I guess Ben Johnson just wanted a guy like Colston Loveland more for that Bears offense, which is fine. It's respectable. I think Colston Loveland is a great player, but it was a little shocking seeing him go before Tyler Warren. Michael Williams to the Niners makes sense. Tyler Booker to the Cowboys. I thought that they were going to go in direction of like a, receiver or maybe even a running back, but they did stick here and get a guard. Tyler Booker's a great player. I thought this was a little bit of a reach, but nothing too crazy. Kenneth Grant to the Dolphins. I thought that Kenneth Grant maybe was going to fall somewhere, to the mid to late 20s, but he does go here really early to the Dolphins. I thought Walter Nolan maybe was a better player than Kenneth Grant in terms of D tackle, but Miami obviously disagreed with that. They took him at pick 13. Tyler Warren going 14 to the Colts. This was obvious. Jalen Walker falling all the way down to 15. Maybe not all the way down, but, he was, I thought that him going to number 8 to the Panthers was a lock. But he goes down to 15 to the Falcons. Falcons get a crazy pick. At this point in the draft, it was 100% the steal of the draft. And I still would say it's one of the biggest steals of the draft for sure. Then Walter Nolan going to the Cardinals. Really like that pick for them. Shamar Stewart going to the Bengals. Great pick for the Bengals, obviously, with the Ravens. It's going to make Lamar Jackson's life a little bit, more hard and stuff like that. But I think everything will be good. But Shamar Stewart, great pick for the Bengals. Gray Zabel to the Seahawks. Really like that pick for them. Emeka Ibuka to the Buccaneers was a little surprising. I didn't think that they were going to go in direction of a receiver because both corners were still on the board. And Jahad Campbell was on the board, and there was, edge rushers still available. But they did go in the direction of receiver. I guess they really liked Emeka. And then Jahdae Barron going to the Broncos. I thought that the Broncos were going to go Marion Hampton here, but they ended up opting to go with Jahdae Barron, who's going to be on the other side of the field, across from Pat Surtain. So now you've got 2 absolutely stud corners. The Broncos defense continues to just get better and better. One of the best defenses in the NFL. Just get better. The Steelers at 21. This was a big pick of the night. because obviously after the Saints didn't get Shador at 9, all eyes were on the Steelers of getting Shador at 21, and they ended up skipping him. They ended up passing on him, Shador and Jackson Dart. They ended up passing on the quarterback in general and getting Derek Harmon out of Oregon. He's a great player. I thought that the Ravens had a good chance of getting him as well. He's a great player. The Steelers needed D tackles, and they already, they couldn't get, they couldn't get Walter Nolan, and they couldn't get Kenneth Grant because they already went. So, they stuck with their game plan. Obviously, their game plan was to get a D tackle, and they end up getting Derek Harmon. Solid pick for them. The Chargers get Omarion Hampton at 22. Little shocking. Shocking because the Chargers, I'm funny. But the Chargers get Omarion Hampton. A little surprised by it, though, because of obviously the Najee Harris signing. But at the same time, it does make a little bit of sense. But I thought that they were going to maybe go edge here. There's still an edge on the board that didn't even get taken in the first round, and Mike Green, who didn't even go round 1, who I thought he was going to go to the Chargers, but obviously not. And then the Packers ended up getting Matthew Golden. They finally drafted a first-round receiver. The crowd was going crazy. It was super cool to see. Matthew Golden got on the mic and was telling Green Bay, telling the audience that he was going to, work hard and do everything for them. And they were going to win a Super Bowl. So, that was cool to see. That was cool to see from Matthew Golden, getting drafted to a team that's hosting the draft in front of all the fans. That was a really cool moment. And then the Vikings had the worst pick of the first round. They ended up getting Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. Not that I hate the player, I just do not like where he was drafted. I thought that he was going to be a day 2 pick for sure, but the Vikings, pretty much reach on him. I thought that they were going to maybe go with Josh Simmons, or maybe even I don't even know. It was just a surprising pick for me. The Vikings wanted to stick and get offensive line, and they were able to do that here. And then the Giants trade back into the first round. Obviously, this was for a quarterback. It was either going to be Shador Sanders or Jackson Dart, and they ended up getting Jackson Dart to be the hopeful QB for the future for the New York Giants. Love this for them. Love that the Giants were able to trade back up into this first round and get him. And they also didn't give up too much as well. So, great selection for the Giants. Then the Falcons traded back into the first round as well with the Rams. They also gave up a first-round pick in that trade. That was a little questionable. But they ended up getting James Pierce Jr., one of the highest ceilings in this draft, one of the best edge rushers in this draft. And if you notice as well, the Falcons went, doubled up on edge rusher. They got Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. They got 2 of the best edges in the same class. It's ridiculous. And if these guys, play to their full potential, because I think that these 2 guys had the highest ceiling of any edge rusher in this draft. And if they, play up to their ceiling and get up to even near their ceiling, it is going to be a problem in Atlanta. Love these picks by the Falcons. I honestly think that the Falcons, I want to say that they maybe won the first round just because of, them doing what they did. But I do not like them giving up their first-round pick for next year. So I think definitely the 2 winners of this first round were the Giants and the Falcons for sure. Trading back into the first round and getting great players with both of those selections. Obviously, then at 27, the Ravens got Malaki Starks. I already expressed my interest for him. So excited that he is a Raven. So excited to see the future. I think the fit next to Kyle Hamilton is going to be perfect. He's going to learn a lot for him. He even said in his interview afterwards, he said, I want to be a sponge. I want to soak in all the information from Kyle Hamilton as I possibly can. And I think these 2 guys are going to be, this has the ability to be the next Legion of Boom. Obviously, you've got Malaki Starks back there. You've got Nate Wiggins back there. You got Kyle Hamilton. You got Roquan Smith. You got all these guys on this defense. And this defense is looking nice. Malaki Starks was the dream pick for me. I'm so happy we got him. There was a ton of different guys that I would have been fine with, but Malaki Starks was at the top of my list, and I'm so happy with this pick, man. And then the Lions go with Tyleik Williams, a little surprising. Thought that they were going to maybe go with an edge to pair up with Aiden Hutchinson, but they go with Tyleik Williams, somebody that I thought was going to be a day 2 pick, but very good run stopper for the Lions. Josh Cornelly Jr. goes to the Commanders. Also a little surprising. I thought that they were going to go defense. because they already, traded for Larry Tunsil. But, this guy's going to learn behind him. Also going to be able to rotate it on the other side. Like this pick for Washington. Maxwell Hairston to the Bills. Again, thought this guy was going to go in the second round. I thought Will Johnson was going to maybe get picked here by the Bills. But, apparently there is a knee issue that a lot of teams were worried about. And that's why he did fall. And then the Eagles, once again, very similar to the Ravens, where they kind of just sit where they are. I mean, obviously the Eagles had to trade up this year, by one, but the Eagles did get Jahad Campbell, one of the best players in this draft, at pick 31. Just every single year the Eagles just seem to get away with this stuff. And then the Chiefs at pick 32 get a steal in Josh Simmons. So everyone in this first round was able to come away with a very good player. And there's also, if you go over to day 2, there's still a ton of good players available. There's Will Johnson, Mike Green, Nick Emanuari, Donovan Ezakaru, Darius Alexander, Travion Henderson, Siobhan Revel, obviously Shador Sanders, Luther Burden. There's still a ton of good players left. Day 2 tomorrow is going to be very interesting to see as well. Obviously, I'm going to have an episode up tomorrow talking about day 2 and everything that happened there. And yeah, just make sure to stay tuned in for that tomorrow night. But going over to the Orioles win that they had today, they win 2-1. Their record now is 10-14. They officially now have double-digit wins. Finally, they're going into this game. They were one of 3 teams that didn't have double-digit wins. Finally got the double-digit win. Shout out to the pitching today, who came in clutch. Cade Povich, phenomenal start, got the win on the game, and also the first win of the year. His ERA dropped down to a 5.04. 4 hits, 1 run, 5 strikeouts, only 1 walk. Amazing game by Cade Povich. Amazing game. Can't say enough good things about it. And then Yennier Cano, Gregory Soto, and Felix Bautista closing out the game, keeping the game in check, not letting the Nationals come back in it. Felix Bautista gets his 3rd save of the year. Love to see that for Felix, obviously getting ramped up. But it's just nice to see the Orioles go out here and get a win finally after just so many heartbreaking losses like the ones that they had yesterday, and obviously the game where they only got 1 hit, and then the loss to 24-2. It was getting rough for the Orioles, and they finally go out and get a win. Obviously, they still did lose this series, but at least they got a win. At least they got one up on the board. But I will say the next 2 series for the Orioles are going to be pretty tough. So hopefully they can just bring this momentum into the upcoming games. If you go over to the offense, not really much was happening. Only 4 total hits on the day. 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. 5 guys left on base. 2 total walks as a team. Cedric Mullins went 1 for 4 and had the go-ahead RBI. The biggest hit of the game was 100% that go-ahead RBI. Cedric Mullins, player of the game for sure on offense. Cade Povich, player of the game overall. But Cedric Mullins, 1 for 4, gets the go-ahead RBI in the 5th inning. Love to see that for Cedric. Again, continues to just be so good for this Orioles team and comes up clutch in so many different scenarios and just keeps on producing. Cedric Mullins does. Adley Rutschman 0 for 4, Gunnar Henderson 0 for 3, Ryan Mountcastle 0 for 3. Jordan Westburg gets a hit, 1 for 4, so he's starting to come back a little bit. He's had some hits in a row for the Orioles. Obviously he was in a little bit of a slump, but he looks like he is not fully all the way back, but he's getting back there, so it's good to see for Jordan. Heston Kjerstad didn't have a great game. Ramon Laureano gets a hit. Ryan O'Hearn gets a hit. So, Orioles didn't get a ton of hits today, obviously, but it was enough to win thanks to the pitching and just doing a little bit of scouting and, looking at the series that we have coming up next. It is a 3-game series in Detroit where we're playing the Tigers. And during this 3-game series, this is going to be a little bit of a rough stretch. If the Orioles can find a way to win this series against Detroit in Detroit with the pitchers that we have starting, it will be not a miracle, but it will be pretty spectacular if they're able to do that. So tomorrow the Orioles have Brandon Young. We're calling him back up from AAA to get the start tomorrow. So we got Brandon Young tomorrow, who obviously didn't have a great outing. He went 4 innings, 3 runs in his first outing. Brandon Young tomorrow. Then on Saturday, you got Charlie Morton versus Jackson Jobe. And then on Sunday, you've got Dean Kramer versus the reigning AL Cy Young winner in Tarek Skubal. So this series is going to be tough. You got Skubal and Job, who have not only been two of the best pitchers on the Tigers, but two of the best pitchers in all of Major League Baseball. So obviously Tarek Skubal reigning AL Cy Young winner. So this is going to be a tough series. And just a quick little note about what the Orioles need to do to win this series. It's pretty simple. What the Orioles need to do to win this series is they need to score some runs. They need to go out there and score runs. They need to score a lot of runs, because I can almost guarantee you that they're going to probably let up a lot of runs during the series. You have two guys who have a 6.5 plus ERA, and then you have Charlie Morton, who has like a 10.8 ERA. So you're going to have to go out there and score a lot of runs if you want to win. You're going to have to keep games competitive. If the Tigers score early, you're going to have to answer back quick and score early, or just keep the game within reach. Keep the game within, 1 run, 2 runs, or even 3 runs. Just keep the game within reach. Get on base. Be patient. Get hits. Get timely hits. Try and hit home runs as well, obviously, but really just get timely hits. Take advantage of runners in scoring position. Do their thing. They just got to score against Detroit, because this pitching matchup is very good for them, and the pitching matchup for them is obviously, the pitching matchup is just not very good for us, very good for them, obviously, because we don't really have great pitchers starting for us this week. And if we want to be able to keep up, we're going to have to score, and that's really all there is to say about that. The game tomorrow is at 5:40. This is a weekend series. Again, obviously, I'll have an episode up tomorrow night, similar to the time now, talking about the Orioles picks tomorrow, and also the Ravens picks tomorrow, and the Orioles game tomorrow as well. But that's going to be all for this episode of Birds of a Feather. Thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode. Whether you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube, I appreciate all the support, all the streams, all that stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in. Obviously, it was a big day. NFL first round draft is over. We move over to day 2 tomorrow, and then day 3 on Saturday. So hopefully the Ravens tomorrow can maybe be a little bit aggressive. I would like to see the Ravens tomorrow, if they see a guy like Donovan Izaraku or Mike Green start falling a little bit. I would love to see the Ravens, be aggressive and trade up, because we have so many picks over these next 2 days, and we just can't, we don't need all those picks. Like, we can use those picks to trade up, go get someone that we really think can help us tomorrow, and we move on from there. Obviously, the Orioles game is tomorrow as well. That we'll go over that again tomorrow in our episode. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode today. We're zooming through these episodes. I'm having a great time doing this, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, where we talk about the Ravens draft and also the Orioles game. So I'll see y'all tomorrow. Y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. Peace out.